What if you could slide into 1,000 different worlds where it's the same year and you're the same person, but everything else is different? And what if you can't find your way home? Well, Robert Jeffries and I found the gateway. Now the problem is finding a way back home. This is Stumbling Through the Multiverse, a Sliders recap with Rain Coleman and Robert Jeffries II. All right, y'all. We are still trapped in the multiverse, the Sliderverse, the whatever verse. This is Stumbling Through the Multiverse podcast. This is a Sliders review discussion, official Sliders podcast. I'm going to claim that because, if somebody else out there doing it, I don't care. They ain't on the prime earth. Oh, man, we're diving into episode 2. I am your co-host, Rain Coleman, the CarefreeBlackNerd. Thank you all for joining us. And I have with me the man of the hour, the orchestrator of this madness. What's up, Robert?
What's going on, man? What's going on? You ready for the review?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Okay, so real quick, little housekeeping. Use the hashtag STTMPod, Stumbling Through the Multiverse. This is the second half of the pilot, which is the second episode, which was kind of like I feel like it should have been just one episode, a full movie, but I get it. It's TV.
Yeah.
In episode 2, the Sliders wind up on an Earth that is entirely under communist rule, where Wade's counterpart is living as a rebel leader pushing for democracy. And to that, I object because she sucked. Her counterpart. I'll say that. Not Wade, but her counterpart. But yeah, what's going on? How we feeling?
I mean, general thoughts. Before we get into the nitty gritty of it, I like the episode. But like I was saying off camera that there are things. This is more the action-packed, suspenseful part of, let's say, this extended pilot. But there are things that I noticed. I think after like subsequent watches over the years, because I do like a rewatch of this like once a year, so it's kind of like a comfort watch for the series. That there are things that they will similar. There are things that are used at least throughout the first and second seasons, at least like certain themes, certain concepts. And this is the episode where a few of those things begin. And I don't know if that's necessarily like easy. I don't want to say easy writing because I don't write TV, but I do see similarities between this and later episodes. So, I mean, I thought it was a fun episode, weird at times, but yeah, and I do have some like things to discuss or like I make constructive criticism. So what about you? What are your like general thoughts?
General thoughts is this is wacky as fuck. I can't appreciate how they just I feel like if you were watching this live and you were like, I don't know about this show, these 2 episodes, they packed a lot of stuff in these episodes. When you think about it, how many worlds we've touched, some of it that could be a critique is mainly because it's old. At least in these generally, there's some specific things short, but like all in all, I think they did a really good job at being practical with a lot of things, which was kind of to their detriment because there was one issue that I can't wait to get to with the phone company when I was like, this doesn't make sense. But all in all, I enjoyed it, and I think it truly sets the tone. Now, mind you, listeners and viewers, I have not seen this show at all, but I feel like these first 2 episodes truly do prime you for whatever is going to come. Like at this point, they can go to Elephant World where there's all just elephants, and there's also like, I don't know, a Bank of America, and I would just accept it. Like, I don't know. Like, so I general thoughts, I liked it. I liked the little adventure. I kind of saw the ending coming because I guess it only makes sense. But like in the midst of watching it, I was like, well, I don't know. So no, general thoughts. I enjoyed it. I truly enjoyed this episode. I did.
Okay.
I did.
Cool. So I guess we can jump into it. I'll give like the rundown of the episode. So first, the second episode begins with the group crash landing on this Earth, which at that point they think is their home. You know, it's there. We haven't had like a big reveal. I think the big thing right now is like Quinn. They don't know if Quinn's had got off of like what did I say? Arctic wasteland world or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, Rembrandt does like says that trip was a trip, you know, that type of thing. And then so they basically are having them kind of, they're either like re-showing the same footage from the end of the episode, or they're saying it, and then because we've seen the trailers, at least you know back in the day, Quinn is there, so Quinn shows up. And I do want to give credit to Sabrina Lloyd, you know, the lady playing Wade, because she was like acting her ass off, you know, like with the emotions of not expecting, you know, thinking that Quinn wasn't going to make it through. So I thought that was actually a pretty good moment there. And then when he jumps through, he sees that Wade is crying. And then like he starts questioning, he's like, "Why are you crying?" And she's like, and I can't remember exactly what her response is, but she you know, she's like, you know, he's I don't know, he's once again he's oblivious, you know, to her like emotional state. And then we have the, you know, Rembrandt once again being like, "I can get to the gig," you know, and he exactly. And then he kind of berates Quinn, which will become a kind of a constant, at least in the first season. So that's kind of the opening before we get to the big reveal. So like any thoughts about this in general?
Was dumb. I said, what do you mean we about to separate? I don't care if we're back home. Why are we separate? This is so weird. I said, even they should have nothing that those other three had to do should have stopped them from going with Rembrandt to the damn I don't know, baseball game, whatever.
Baseball game,
this makes absolutely no sense. We just had a trauma bonding, life shattering experience together, and we're about to separate.
Yep. That's so that's the thing that got me was Rembrandt didn't exchange no addresses, he didn't exchange no phone numbers. He just turned to Quinn pissed off, and then he was like, "I got to get to this job. Y'all don't understand. I need to get to this job." And even if it wasn't like the three of them, I felt, I mean, like you said, the trauma bonding is the perfect term, because think about, like, what if Quinn does go public with this? What if he wants you there to talk to the media, to talk to the government, to talk to whoever he's gonna, like, or academia? Like, we need the first-hand accounts of, and he just needed to get to his gig, and nobody thought to. They were just like, let's just let the brother run off. So, so now we get to like the big reveal. Wade goes to call her family because they, you know, that's understandable. She's like, "I just went through this big, you know, life-changing event." Quinn and the professor are kind of, you know, walking through the park and, you know, talking about sliding and, you know, what the future holds and all of this. And the first thing that the professor sees is a statue of, I think is it Lenin? I can never remember.
I'm sorry, Lenin.
Yeah, Lenin. A historical political figure from, you know, back in, you know, Russia, from back in, you know, history, and it's in the place of where there was this Abraham Lincoln statue. So that whole thing, and we see a couple of things that were placed introduced in the first episode, and we're starting to see like the differences. So the professor is like, "Has that statue always been there?" And Quinn, like, is not looking. He said, "A statue of Lincoln." No, he says no, Lenin. And then the second thing that we see, and I'll let you get into this, is the PT&T phone booth. Children, they used to have these things called telephone booths back in the day.
Yeah.
where you had to go and make phone calls.
Oh
But
god.
Wade goes there, and she talks to an operator who starts going on this, basically saying some like weird cryptic stuff, which is more in line of like somebody speaking for like the Soviet road, Russia,
Hmm.
motherland, and I think the sign on the booth says the people's telephone and telegraph. What was yours? What was it specifically about that, which was weird or
Well,
crazy?
yes, this, but there's a later
Later, okay,
part.
okay,
But
yeah,
what, and maybe you might have to clear this up for me. When she said the operator said PTT, was that their version of AT&T? Like, or
yeah,
was it okay? I was like,
yeah,
something ain't uh, something ain't clicking for me here, and I wanted to be frustrated with all of them, but then I was thinking also like. Us as humans, especially humans of privilege, and I say privilege specifically because we're in America,
mm-hmm,
black, white, brown, blue. I'm not considering race and marginalized intersectionality, but just us being Americans or people in general. I think you don't really think like if you walked in the house and everything looked the same, but like instead of I don't know a Star Trek poster, it was an X-Men poster. You might
yeah,
not think of that right away. And so when Quinn looked up and saw that Soviet thing, I think the show did a really good job at getting us the audience to think we're in the real world,
mm-hmm,
and then every single way that the people found out they were not was
mm-hmm,
believable to me.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Queen is what 5'4". She's not going to look up at a at a phone booth to make sure it
What are you
says
talking
AT
about,
and
Wade?
T
Right?
before she walks in. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
like that. I like that.
Yeah, so she was like you said, she just ran in there, put a quarter in the machine, and was about to make a phone call. And so
Mm-hmm.
then the other thing that they show is, I don't know if this is later on or it might be that same. Actually, it is that same scene. They Wade meets back up with Quinn and the professor, and they see um, I think the correct politically correct term today to say is like unhoused or like I can't remember like I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
uh unhoused or homeless, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, and he is now this he's now he's like literally standing on like a soapbox or like ranting and raving in support of Mother Russia or the
Mm-hmm.
the Soviet Union and all of that, and you
Mm-hmm.
have these like two soldiers on either side, and he's kind of ranting against the I think he said imperialist American underground. And
Yes.
so rather like then back in the day, he back in the other world or Earth Prime, he was just kind of ranting and raving about whatever. So that's when Wade is like, yeah, I just made a phone call, I think I might get arrested or something. And there and and then they basically just stand there and look very concerned. So then we cut back to Rembrandt, probably halfway across town now, and
Yeah.
he's in the taxi with this guy who was speaking Russian. He's speaking Russian, and even just to kind of show how things have changed, he says something like Rembrandt says like you move to
Oh
the
my lord.
country, you
Yeah.
gotta learn the language. And I was like,
Yeah.
God, brother,
Yeah.
God. So he hands him when they get to a toll booth. Oh, that the first thing that he notices is when this anthem comes on the radio. And this is kind of the goofy, kind of campy side of things. You
Mm-hmm.
see people like saluting, like, and as far as I know, in 1980s or 1990s, the Soviet Union, I know it was bad, but I don't think
Mm-hmm.
you had people like saluting as they
While
were
driving. What
right
the
while
fuck?
driving. So, like I said, there are bits of this definitely that are like over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Rembrandt looks at that and he's like, okay, well, it might be the Canadian national anthem. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
Rembrandt, come on. So they get to the toll booth, and the guy is asking him for money, and Rembrandt hands him like I think like $1 or $5.
A
No, I think it's a
dollar.
dollar. He gives him a
Yeah, a
dollar,
dollar.
and the guy looks at it, sees George Washington, gets out of the car, and then tells the soldier at the toll booth, what is happening, I guess, in Russian. And then, and once again, in one of the goofiest moments, all the like 12 soldiers pop out of nowhere and train their guns on him and then you see him like duck down, and I guess it's one of the comedic moments, but he's just like, he said something about change, like, do y'all you can't like give change for a dollar or something, and it's kind of it wasn't as bad as in that first pilot, the first episode where he was like, ew, that type of thing, but it's still this thing of like him kind of being the, I don't want to say played for laughs. And also I will say, like, in today's, I'm going to ask you to talk about like Rembrandt's whole moment. Like, what did you think about like his descent into Mother Russia?
I hated this. I'm watching this through a 2024 lens, so I understand no matter how uncomfortable or weird stuff might be, it also is of the time. But I was like, this black man in the back of this taxi with all these white folks pointing guns at him. I get this scene right here is my issue with black people in time traveling stories when they're not written by black people. Not saying that this pulled me out of the show so much, because even though this was like a little distasteful, this next scene was fucking terrifying. But I think he's supposed to bring this like lightness to the show, but it feels, I don't want to say like buffoonery, but it feels kind of odd, because I'm like, you are a black man of a certain age. Like, this is traumatic. So I don't like it. Even the scene where they do the interrogation, I was like, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical doctor, I cannot diagnose anyone, but like, is there some sort of, I know this wasn't the intention, but is there some sort of like, I don't even want to say it, I would just say like mental deviation? That's not right. Like, there's something that it feels like he feels childlike sometimes in a way that is a little uncomfortable, not because it's inappropriate or anything as it relates to children. It just feels like he's not, it feels like he's in a sitcom and everybody else is in like this sci-fi drama.
And that goes to something I was talking about, like in the first episode, how everybody reacts to these outlandish, crazy situations that are dangerous. At least in these two episodes, but especially in the first one, they got him like yelling, being kind of like making these like funny faces, and just kind of, and that's always kind of like, that just hasn't sat well with me, especially with him being the only black person in the cast. I think the other thing is, especially compared to how they push his character in later seasons, I'm not spoiling anything, he does not stay like this, which is pretty interesting as far as like his development. I think the other thing with this is like just the side of like him being surrounded by like 12 white guys holding guns on this black guy in his car. It was just like, I'm sorry, like that just don't jive with me, and him, and it being played for laughs. I do think that there is a sense of him being like like I said before, the everyman of this, like this is like, he's the guy who doesn't have like the sciencey background, because because even Wade has like a background like in tech, and I don't know like how much they even play that up in later seasons, but that's something that's established in the first episode. He is like the guy who doesn't know the science jumbo, and not because he's like a dumb dude, it's just like that's not his background. But because this show is so weird in tone, and especially when it comes to him, it's just like he is a comedic relief, which is like, I don't know how to necessarily feel about that, because comedy does seem to be like a thread outside of just him, but it seems like a lot of it is falling on his shoulders in these first couple of episodes. And I know some people will be like, don't take it so seriously. It's just like, well, if you're the only brother, if you see them as being the only person of color, in this, you don't want him just being like having the reaction that he did when they were in the caddy, that type of stuff. But I do think that if this show is made now, any person of color or any other, let's say, minority, would have better representation in the writers' room, and then you would see kind of more fleshed out, because at this point it takes us like 2 or 3 seasons to get to the point where he is the more serious one of the group, or he is more serious. So if you can stick with this ride, he does change. But yeah, it's something that is very apparent, like within these first couple of episodes. But so I'll move on. So we cut back to Wade, Rembrandt, and Quinn walking through war-torn San Francisco. Once again, this is like I don't know anybody who lived in let's say Russia or the Soviet Union back in the day, but they make it look like I do think that they kind of go over the top with this.
Man, this is Days of Future Past. I said, what the hell is this?
Right. This, like the joke always, there was something, I don't know if you saw the movie Finding Forrester. You remember that part where it was a movie back in the day with Sean Connery and I cannot remember the black teenager's name, black guy's name. But basically it was about this like writer who lived in New York, and he was like holed up in his house. He wrote like a classic book, and then this the student. Anyways, there's a part where he's like a recluse, and he comes out of his house, and he's riding around. I think on his bicycle, and it's supposed to be Brooklyn or Harlem or the Bronx or whatever. And at one point, he rides past a burning car, and I'm just like, why the fuck is? I'm sorry, why is it just a burning car? It's like a car burning. It like this neighbor, like it's not bad. Like you guys are embellishing the idea of like the urban experience. So this is what this kind of feels like. You got the cars that are just broken down, and then the Russian soldiers are just walking around. You hear gunshots everywhere. You weirdly see just like these middle-aged people just standing around in trench coats, just staring at people.
Man.
It's this weird thing of like, so it's once again this over the top, but also because of time constraints, it's like you got to fit in all of this bad stuff into this. So they are, and my thing is like they're being extra obvious, so they're just kind of walking around, getting a feel of the neighborhood and just of the city, and you see how things are really bad. So the next thing is the interrogation. So like your thoughts about like the introduction of what San Francisco is now like.
First of all, this, and I'm not saying she can't be a domestic terrorist, but this little old white lady got thrown into a car, but quite literally a second later, 2 other elderly people get shot up behind everybody. Like, thankfully they don't put it on camera, but then like they put some rounds into them people, and Quinn and them just turn around, and it was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, what are we talking about? That the whole I still enjoyed the episode. I was just like, what are we doing? Because how do we have this exist, and on the same corner a guy's just selling hot dogs? Like, what?
Exactly.
What's the overlap? This is not. This was a lot. I'll just say it. This was a hell of a lot, and it did its job. It's the shorthand of like all these evil Russians. Look what they've done. Okay, sure, but like even the bad parts of America in the 90s, didn't look like this for no reason. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just make everything that is American bad, and just put a Russian like cloak over it and make it now. Because I was like, this is. I couldn't even. Now I'm not from California. I've been a couple times as a kid, but like nothing about this was recognizable. I was just like, this is just hell.
Like you said, Days of Future Past. I mean, it was a bit much, but it was just weird. I always feel like it's time constraints, and they feel like this is easy. I mean, if they had like Ivan Drago walking down the street just punching people, saying "you bleed, I bleed," that type of thing, that would have been like the level of like subtlety that we found with. And I don't even want to get started on the accents, but so right after that they cut to the scene of the interrogation where once again, this over the top thing where you have this, and also I think some of this is budgetary constraints
Yeah.
because they have this big warehouse, which I'm going to tell you now. Sorry, this is minor spoiler. They use the same place in a couple of other
I
episodes. So
mean, why not? Hell, it's big.
that
It's so
so
big.
at least in this one, it's you see this room, this darkened room where there's a single light, like rows of like five lights, and then you have a person being interrogated, and then I'm assuming like it's their lawyer, or maybe in some cases like the interrogator, or maybe both, walking around the person. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, how does a conversation work in that case? So,
Blue
and
Hill
he's
Avenue.
yeah, and they're interrogating each person, and the big reveal with this is that the lawyer that we saw in the commercial in the first episode,
Mm-hmm.
his parallel Earth version or communist, and I forgot to give a name to this world, communist Earth, or
Mm-hmm.
communist Francisco. They He is the lawyer that is interrogating Rembrandt, doing this weird interrogation, but then like, I'm gonna help you, type of thing. And then Rembrandt recognizes him. The big reveal with this is they say that Rembrandt has to be lying because somebody who fits his description or his background was killed 12 years ago in the Detroit uprising. So it gives you a sense that this conflict is like stretching not just in California, but on this world, the brother got killed by the Russians. So then, like, Rembrandt is like, "Oh, I'm Rembrandt, and this and that," and that's when he recognizes that the lawyer is, he recognizes him from his world, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of unnerves him. And then he goes and talks to this like shadowy, I think he's, the subtitles say like commander or whatever, and then
Mm-hmm.
they goofy like, or goofily say, this he's a master of subterfuge, and he's playing with us. We have to send him to the people's court to shut him up. And so, and Rembrandt is like listening, like, y'all are the worst whisperers. But what were your thoughts about this whole
This
scene?
is so dumb in like the best way, but it's so dumb. I
Yeah.
I get what they were doing.
Hmm.
I would have just rather them just interrogate him. Why
In
do
a
we have all
regular
these people
room.
back? We didn't need all of them.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's so weird. Like the whole this person Rembrandt died. It was like, I know he's the main character, so that makes sense. But I'm like, what are
Mhm.
the odds that like this particular guy? Like, y'all documenting and files must be like pristine that you can categorize every single body of every. I don't. It's this was a weird scene, and Rembrandt being going from like kind of shook because like, what the hell are y'all gonna do to me, to this like giggling fit of
Yeah.
laughter where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you're the guy from the TV screen. I was like,
Yes.
wait a minute, they might kill you. What are we
Yeah.
doing? Like, that's the
Hmm.
last thing you need to be doing is laughing about whatever. This kind of confused me because when the lawyer started talking to the general guy, he was like, oh, I see, your civilian
Hmm.
job and this and that. And I was thinking like, but if he's a civilian and the interrogator has a civilian identity as a lawyer, and
Yeah.
that's public, it was just it, I'm giving it grace because it's so old, but there are a few things where I was like, this, just think about it. Just
It was, yeah, and the only thing I could think of with that specifically is like, so in this world, maybe he wasn't like a. I just saw him as being somebody that the Soviets would, they employed or whatever,
okay.
but that's why it was like this weird thing of like being the interrogator,
Hmm.
but he's also like his defense lawyer. And I basically saw his like position as not being a public one. And
Okay. Okay.
that's when they were like, he might have access to like information about you,
That makes
and
sense. Okay.
that type of thing. Because I didn't really think that like his commercials were like he was like I hate to say this, ambulance chaser,
Mm-hmm.
on this earth. He was like working for like Mother Russia, that type of thing. But this scene is still goofy. Like there's a lot of still campy, goofy stuff that happens.
First of all, the People's Court, the very
So
fact that
then,
it was mentioned, it was just like,
yeah. Well, we didn't know it was a People's Court yet.
okay, you're right. You're
Yeah,
right. You're absolutely right. So never
yeah,
mind. Never
yeah, we
mind.
didn't know that, and that kind of keeps in line with. So that's what I'm saying. Like some of the writing in this is kind of like smart, satirical, because like you think the People's Court, and you're thinking like the people,
You're right.
that type of thing. So so then the next scene is actually where we see, like you said, where you see the people get
My
shot.
bad, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're fine, because like it kind of like all runs together. But yeah, this is a scene where they're still being extra damn obvious, standing in the same place. They, like you said, they pick the old lady up. Regular people just get like shot up. And then they go to buy a hot dog. and the vendor is like, he doesn't say like, oh shit, they got shot. He says, hey, he's like, thanks for the hot. He's like, you want a hot dog? And then he hands them, once again, they're using the money. And the guy sees it and says like, hey, just be thankful you gave it to me, comrade. And then that's when Wade notices once again the middle-aged housewives and soccer dads in trench coats chasing them, because like, I'm sorry, they did not look threatening to me at all.
No.
They didn't look threatening to me. And so she says, she jokingly says that they're trying to arrest me because I made a phone call. And so the guy, and so this kind of ties into, one of the common things that happens in many Sliders episodes, they conveniently find a person or a situation that gets them away from the danger that they have been placed in, because this guy says, come with me. And I'm like, okay. So then he runs down, and I actually appreciate the fact that they're like, well, we might get arrested by these parents, so let's run with him. And so they run with him, hide behind some trash.
Yeah.
The parents run right by in their trench coats and decide to look behind the trash. And once again, this is kind of that campy vibe. And the thing, and then he says, he's like, it is you, Wade. It is you, General Wells. And he's like, we've been looking for you. And once again, another convenient thing to happen. And he's like, I'll take you to the resistance. Or he's like, we thought you were captured. And all this stuff. So then he takes them to meet the resistance. So I don't know, like, what's this?
This is so dumb. I'm okay with it. I just think it was clunky. Like, I think for me, the biggest issue, because I was trying to think it through, and I'm like, okay, they still have American money from their world, and they don't know Rembrandt gave the dollar, and so they don't know about that. But like, I don't know. Just something about this feels odd. And even the moment where the guy's like, yeah, Colonel, General, whatever, we're going to take you. It was just like, nobody questioned that. Like, I know they know they're on another earth, but like, what do you, I'm like, and they walk down a long corridor. Like, that was a very long walk. Like, is it like, hey man, what are you talking about? What's up? What's going on in this world? Like, outside of, and also nobody responded to her as she walked through the thing full of, I don't know. I accepted it because I'm like, I'm here, but this is weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's goofy.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. It's goofy. Like it's there definitely. We watched a movie this weekend called, what was it, Trap? The one with Josh Hart and the Shyamalan one about the serial killer.
Oh yeah. Okay, I haven't seen it, but spoiler, whatever. Don't care. I'm still.
I don't want to spoil it, but basically there were things that were happening in it where it was just like the math ain't mathing, and so that's the best way to kind of describe this. Like you can appreciate it for all the action, adventure, kind of goofiness, but then there are other things where it just seems like they were like, we got to wrap this shit up.
Yeah.
And so, and that's kind of the vibe that I get, where he's like, I just ran into the general that was, and he's not even like questioning why she's, because they
Ouch.
probably got reports that she's been arrested, and no reports that she's escaped. So, anyways, but so we get to the reveal of the resistance. I think they show they go into the Fallout shelter from the Fallout TV show. I don't know if you've seen that with the big metal door. They go in, and the first thing that I notice is that people are like looking at Wade, and because they think that she's her double, but then also as compared to outside, it is
Mm-hmm.
very diverse.
Yeah.
It
Oh
is
yeah.
like you got black, brown, Asian. I think people are supposed to be coded as indigenous. Now, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if they are indigenous.
Look, it's the 90s.
So, yeah, so like I
It's
said,
the
so
90s.
and then they take them to meet. I cannot remember this brother's name, but he's a black guy, and he sees Wade. It's a black guy and a white guy, and they're both leaders. And then as soon as the black guy sees Wade, he says like he says something, and then just like and did you notice everybody's wearing bandanas
Yeah.
like, on their
Yes.
neck?
Yes.
And so and then he leans in and kisses her like a long ass kiss. And then like Quinn is like, what? And the professor's like, what? And then he steps back and he says, welcome to the resistance. It was just like, what is going on?
I
Um,
I don't like this at all. I don't like this. I get what they're doing is you're pushing that romance
yeah.
subplot.
Hmm.
Like that's cool. And I'm even
Hmm.
okay with the guy and Wade, but it's also like she's clearly very different. Like I
Yeah.
mean, I guess I get you're happy your love is back, but like
Hmm.
if he had a ran to her really quick and like snatched her up and kissed her, maybe, but he was like, come here. It was so creepy. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Get this man out of here. This
Yeah.
Roe v. Wade love story. I don't know. It's cool, but this is the guy from 24 as a kid or
Yes.
something. This was a lot. I was like, okay,
So
black man.
I can't remember this brother's name, but he has been in a lot of Canadian-based sci-fi shows.
Okay.
And like you mentioned, he was in 24. He was in a season of 24.
Mm-hmm.
And I will get his name one day. But yeah, he's been in a lot. So if you get a chance, I would say look up his name and you'll see. And I think because he was based in where Sliders was filmed
Yeah.
in Vancouver. So I was actually glad to see him. Like this might have been one of his early roles. But so the next scene is like we see Quinn and Professor tied up, and the guy's name is Wilkins. So
Mm-hmm.
they are freed, and they are brought back to Wade with Wilkins, and I can't remember the white guy's name, but he's like a surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
And this is basically, once again, we get the info dump. And it's funny because like this is another trend because it's the professor. He's just talking shit. He's just like talking. He's just like, why did you, making, cracks, why did you arrest us and this and that. And that's when they let them know that, or Wade or somebody says that this isn't Commander Wade Wells. We thought that's who she was, and she's very important to the fight and all
Mm-hmm.
this. And apparently, Arturo's double is Citizen General Maximilian Arturo, which was part of the reason why they arrested him. And so he's seen as like public enemy number one. And once again, here's another. It's going to be a common thing that you see with sliders where their doubles in
Mm-hmm.
some of these worlds are prominent.
Which
Yeah. Yep.
that just messes up the whole first part of this episode. Because
Mm-hmm.
why didn't anyone like we all saw y'all on the street?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
I'm just like
You
y'all
saw,
don't,
yeah, because like if those people were who they were, as far as like the ones chasing them, they should have recognized Arturo, but they should have recognized him going back as far as the park, like you said, in the park. So that's a thing that it's something I had to get used to with like later episodes
Mm-hmm.
where they are like either famous or they have like prominent roles in these worlds, and it's just like it's always kind of for convenience sake. Like I would love for them to always go to a world where everybody's just like a loser, like they're not making money. It's like I want like two worlds where they're just like regular everyday people,
Yeah.
and then like one world where they're just like, I need to. It's like I need to get out of this fucking job, and they're just like,
Yes.
and then like the one world where they're a celebrity. But it seemed like with this, they were always every other episode it was somebody who was prominent. So,
That's crazy.
but the funny thing, from this part, they say that Quinn asked, or like somebody, I think Quinn asked, or somebody asked the black guy, like, how did you know that our weight wasn't your weight? And he says, I can, he said the kids sealed the deal. He's like, I can tell the difference, from kissing her. And I'm just like, okay. It's just like
That's how, not that her body language was like, who the hell are you?
Right.
This was so weird. Because
Yeah.
also, I'm sorry, if I'm Quinn, like me,
Mm-hmm.
and I go through this, I'm like, that man kissing her is not. Last thing on my mind is, oh, I gotta win her back. No, we're stuck in this weird world.
The world
Where shit is like, we can talk about that romance shit later. Like, we're gonna die, but I'm also black, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, like they eventually was like, "Where's Rembrandt?" Like they realize how fucked up this world is, and nobody is saying, "Yo, we need to find the brother that we came here with." And so the big thing now, and this is the stuff that I love about alternate universes or alternate histories. I always say the info dump. So basically, on this world, the United States lost the Cold War, starting with the Korean War. They lost it in the 1950s. From there, I guess the USSR, I think that's what you would call it, or the Soviet Union, they spread across Europe. They did China, Europe, and South America, which are all places where they had some sphere of like influence in our world, except we were the ones that became, they said our economy and technology tanked. We became isolated, which is the same thing that the Soviet Union went through. And then the next stop was the United States. And so they invaded the United States. And the two guys, the two leaders are telling the professor this, and he says, it's the domino theory reversed. So in our world, the domino theory, I guess, technically went in our favor.
Yeah.
Depending how you want to, how you want to talk about it, or at least discuss it. Because now we're in this weird stalemate with Russia again. But and so there's this thing where the two leaders say, like, we're living on the wrong earth, because they are still fighting the fight. So this is the thing about Sliders that I do like, when they go to those worlds where things are like so different because of one step, one thing, one, historical event went one way and then we got where we are. But the other thing is that this thing about like America now being ruled by another nation or like another superpower, that is a thing in a couple of episodes. In a couple of other episodes. So this is like one of those like common threads where it's just like, okay, I need y'all to kind of, and they thought outside the box with other episodes, because there are ones that are really wacky. But there are ones like in this first season where it's just like, okay, like we saw this in a communist episode. But I love the alternate history of it, because you can go to like the bookstore and find like an entire alternate history section where it's a whole thing. It's a whole subgenre within. It's not necessarily about parallel Earths, but it's the thing of like, what if? I mean, actually, shout out to Milton Davis. He has a steampunk series, which kind of does the alternate history thing and mixes it with the steampunk fantasy genre. So that's something to definitely check out if people are interested. But yeah, so I don't know, like this, I know this was like an info dump, like, but what were your thoughts about the explanation for like how things went wrong?
I liked it. I think I accept it more in sci-fi than I do in any other genre, because there is so much, hyperfusion, teleport. Like there's so
Yeah.
much jargon that has to catch up the audience. Even if you
Mhm.
are like a fan, you still like have to, you know what I'm saying? So I don't it hasn't bothered me. None of that bothered me so far. And it also gives these extras or these like guest stars maybe a little
Mhm.
bit more meat to sink their teeth into versus just what are
Yeah.
y'all doing here? It's like you can
Yeah.
have a so yeah, I liked it. It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Cool. So so the next scene is um the Wade runs into this world's double of the boss. I think the boss's name is Michael.
I think so. Yeah.
And when he sees her, he salutes and she
Mm-hmm.
says, so it's kind of this cool thing of like she gets to be the boss in this case and
Mm-hmm.
like kind of talk not talkish, but be kind of in that position.
Yep.
The power roles are shifted, but we
Mm-hmm.
see him watching. The first thing is I don't know what it is with this show and like parodying black music artists, but it's like this weird thing where you
Yeah.
see like their equivalent of like the communist version of MC Hammer and his dancers rapping about being like pro Russia, pro communist type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, and even she says, "Is like, is this serious?" And he's like, "Yes, it's prime time." And I was just like, "Okay." So because you saw the "Cry Like a Man" music video, right? You saw,
Yes.
yeah, you saw that. So,
God, yeah, twice
so
thanks to this show.
yeah,
Ugh.
it was. So this was weird. I don't know anything specifically about that before we get to the People's Court.
Yeah, the hip hop thing was odd.
Yeah,
I get it as far as the world building thing, showing that like this
yeah,
Soviet Russia thing permeated like all of these different industries and niche communities. So I get that. I don't know, man. It was odd, but I'm also like, okay, it's in the '90s. It does track as far as like, yeah, you could put a country artist up there, sure, but I guess the shorthand is like, look, even black folks is impacted by this. I'm assuming. So I was okay with it, but it was weird. It was
yeah.
just so weird.
Yeah, it was funny, and I don't want to ruin anything for like another episode, but like I said, it's a weird trend that they have.
Oh
I do
god.
also think that maybe these brothers are like the only music group that they felt that they could go to.
I
But
mean,
it was just on the more innocent side, it's just like kind of a once again a satirical look or a parody
mm-hmm.
of like you said how communism had affected all
Yeah.
communities, whatever. But the thing that, and I'm sorry, I like the People's Court segment. I actually like the People's Court segment because they had George Wapner in there and the actual, the bailiff, the
Mm-hmm.
reporter. But it's their People's Court is basically the People's Court that we grew up watching back in the day, like like Judge Mathis type of thing. But like this is the one that kind of started it all. But Rembrandt and the taxi driver go on TV, and that's the next show that pops up. So Wade calls the professor and Quinn over, and they basically watch the trial, which is like 10 minutes max, and the taxi driver, pleads, gives his case, and then Rembrandt is like, he's trying to plead his case, and Judge Wapner is like, "Did you give him this money?" And he's like, "Yeah, but you see, I came through this portal with cue ball," and then George Wapner goes cue ball, and then he's like. And he says, and at a certain point he's talking, and then Wapner says, like, "You're done," and he's like, "I'm not finished." And then and then Judge Wapner gives him 15 years
Which
in a in a like a penal, like in jail or whatever, and he says 15 years, and as he's taken out, he says, "Small claims my ass," or whatever. But yeah, and this is a weird, once again, a weird example of humor in this show, like this balance of action adventure, but then like you throw in moments like this
mm-hmm.
is kind of like tone wise. So I don't know what do you think about the People's Court?
My only issue with this scene is why did the taxi driver still have that dollar? That was the only issue I had. I was like, why didn't they confiscate this dollar? Why
Yeah,
is this not in evidence? Like, why? That's the only other one. Other than that, it was a fun little nod to like everything's the same, but everything's different. So I enjoyed it.
yeah,
But I was like, I don't know, man. This feels wrong. Like,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I truly did.
But yeah, and so so once I see that, the the brother and the two leaders, uh, they tell the Wade, Quinn, and the professor that
Mm-hmm.
Wade and Rembrandt. They say like, where are they taking him? And he's being held at the same place as Commander Wells.
Mm-hmm.
They're and that's convenient, which is cool. And
Mm-hmm.
so Quinn suggests, hey, let's do a raid, so we can get both of them. And the thing that kind of got me with that is like, you were probably messing things up for this, like this and there's something that one of the guys says to that, but like as he said that, I'm like, they probably got plans in place to continue this fight, but
Mm-hmm.
because you now need to save your friend is making it difficult. And so the fact that they didn't get any pushback, they got a little, but they didn't get a lot of pushback from these guys, I guess, because the guys were like, well, we can save both of them. But I'm like, were you thinking about saving her before Quinn said
Because she's been
this?
in there for 4 days.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And
mm,
so I think what they did say is, because they now have Arturo to play himself, that gives them a better chance to get in.
yeah.
But this whole thing about it, and it feels rushed.
Mm-hmm.
It feels rushed. And then even when they're in the trucks getting ready to go, um, the when they're in the trucks getting ready to go, one of the leaders tells Wade, um, if we fail here, the whole West Coast resistance is
Oh my
destroyed.
God.
And I was like, um, yo,
Maybe don't do this. Like,
right, let's roll. And then like Wade says, then we won't fail or we won't
like
lose. And I'm just like, okay, have you fought in any wars? Like, if you
never. I
like
would. Oh
no,
God, this pissed me off. This really pissed me off.
yeah,
Cause like when he said that, like at first I was mad at him. I'm like, no, y'all live here. This is
yeah,
not. This is a game to y'all. Like this is not. This is not
right.
fun. Oh, I was so mad. I was so
They
mad.
should have had at least one person in that group, of like the resistance, saying like, y'all get to leave here when you get your friend, but we still got to stay here. Like, is that portal big enough to bring all of us?
Man,
That type
say.
of thing. So I wish that they had received a little bit more resistance, because we do know where the episode's going to go. So like, we understand that, but it would
Mm-hmm.
have helped if they had like one brother or sister walk in and say, no, like this ain't gonna work. So
Yeah.
um
Ugh.
they so the raid, so they drive up to, and it's weird because they have the Jeep where I would say all the main characters or all the main actors are with it's Quinn, Professor, the black guy, and then there are two trucks that
Yeah.
they have covered, which have the resistance fighters in there. So the fact that the Russian soldiers at the checkpoint didn't check that was that's bad on their part. But Arturo does this whole thing of where he tells the guy that he's doing like an inspection,
Mm-hmm.
and then he makes mistake after fucking mistake with talking to this guy, to the
Just
lieutenant. and and so when the lieutenant, like, they let him through, um, when the lieutenant actually called the real Arturo's house and checked in, I couldn't blame him, because it was
yeah.
just like one fuck up after another.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were just like fumbling and making jokes, and He was forgetting. I mean, he didn't know. He was
Yeah.
like not getting it right. So I don't know. This was like one of those goofy moments that you like. What did you think?
It was silly as hell. The only thing that I could say in their defense, which kind of
Um,
made me a little shook, is that nothing in this world was established to be scientific in the way that, like, oh, there's cloning. So, like, I know he made a lot of mistakes, but I was also like, there's only one of him. Y'all know he don't have a twin. So, like,
I guess they can. Yeah, yeah. I
that's
mean,
the only thing.
yeah. I mean, I think the other thing that I was thinking was they probably could have said, hey, maybe you had surgery to look like. I don't know. Like,
I mean, sure, yeah, no, I'm
maybe-
accept what it was, but I was like, this is, but
yeah.
also kind of good on the Russian dude who was like, bro, this shit don't sit right, especially
Right.
with that last line when Arturo was like, no matter what sirens or alarms you hear, don't come save anybody. This is a dream. I'm like, bro, now that's just like, I'm not stealing. This is not an umbrella under my shirt from the umbrella store. It's like, what? You're
Yeah.
you're making it worse.
Yeah.
What are you?
And that's why I was like, the professor was not acting smooth with this at all. I mean,
No.
especially, I mean, whatever. So they get through. The guy calls the house of the real professor or the commandant, whatever he is in
Mm-hmm.
this world. And the side note, so I've read the novelization of this like pilot,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that the novelization does actually go into is his double's life.
Oh,
So
really?
they,
Wait,
yeah,
what?
yeah. So in the novelization, they have more room to kind of expand things out, give more time to certain things. And one of the things that I do remember, I don't know if I have the book flown around here. I probably,
I'm looking
traded it
for it.
back. But they do have scenes with the Arturo of this world, and
Mm-hmm.
he's an asshole. He is. They definitely do play into like him being a pawn of the Soviet Union,
Mm-hmm.
communists and all that. So that was something that I thought was pretty interesting. If people want to go and dig a little bit more
It's
into
$8.
this, what'd you say?
It's $8. I'm
Well, there you
looking
go.
it up now.
Yeah, so definitely check it out. So the raid, so that we show Rembrandt in the jail. This soldier walks up and gives him essentially like what he says called dog food to eat, and what happens is is that they show the guy hand the food and there's nobody behind him, and when he turns around, it's like 12 people with guns in like the most goofiest way.
Right.
And it was like, how did they not make any sound? How did he not hear them? And so
Magic.
then they free him. Quinn and Arturo, and this is weird, but
Yes.
they do it. But we know why they do it because it's for the story. Why didn't Wade stay with them? So it's Quinn and Arturo, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Wade is going to save herself," and then Rembrandt's like, "What?" And if I was reading the script, I'm like, "Wait, why aren't we all together? why do we
Again, quit splitting up.
why
Shit.
do we keep split it up?" Right. So unless you get to a world where everything is like normal, maybe like, hey, we can do some shopping. We don't want to
Mm-hmm.
stay with y'all. We want to, but then like with their luck, which actually does happen, they do some normal shit. They think it's normal, and then when they go shop, they're like, "Oh, your credit card is for the Forsaken," that type of shit.
Right.
So, yeah, that type of shit. Like, see, that's the type of stuff I would write. Like, if you use this credit card, you are Forsaken or some
Oh
bullshit.
God.
So once again, and the other thing that I notice is that there's this lady, and even if it was a dude, it's this big ass, like, it's this gun. And in my mind, they just got a bunch of extras and just threw guns at them and
Mm-hmm.
said, "Do you know how to hold a gun?" They was like, "No." They was like, "You're in the scene." Because it leads to this weird ass action scene where the choreography is just all over the
Yeah.
place.
Very
They
bad.
get outside. There's an array. There's an alarm going. Rembrandt hits the ground and rolls down some steps. The professor is hiding behind columns.
It's
Um,
ugly.
and Quinn, like everybody is just running and shooting. I think some people are doing like karate. Actually, we know who does karate, Quinn, because apparently Quinn knows martial arts,
It's so
and
dumb.
he beat somebody with a gun. It's all over the place. And so then we see um the brother run out with Wade, and we don't know which Wade it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one Wade, and we're like, where's the second Wade? So she went off with somebody else. So he's running out with his John Woo gun setup, with doing the double shots, and I'm like, that would be counterproductive to, like, just in the scene. And then we see Quinn, and I'm gonna say now, Quinn got this woman killed.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, he did.
we're gonna jump forward. I'm sorry, like that's a spoiler. Quinn ran in because he thought it was his Wade, and even Wade looks at him like, "What the hell?" and
Oh,
runs away. So, like, what were your thoughts about like this action
I
sequence with
was
that
so
specifically?
pissed. This whole
Yeah.
thing was just dumb. It was just chaos. Like
Yes.
this could have gone 100. Y'all had no exit plan. First, then the black dude was like in the earlier scene, "Don't be afraid. Don't act like you're scared to use this gun." Like what? There's a lot. Y'all didn't see if we could have had a montage of getting ready to
Yeah.
fight,
Mhm.
and so when we get this, first of all, when they free Rembrandt from the jail, why didn't they show another cutscene of what Wales? Wasn't it Wales? West?
Wade.
Wasn't it
Yeah, Wade.
Wade?
Mhm.
Her and the black guy, and then the taller, I don't know, racially ambiguous, kind of white Italian dude with the wavy hair. Like they
Yeah.
could have had like a quick cutscene of like walking down, because yeah, this was odd.
It was like right into it. Yep.
When he pulled her from that black man, I was so pissed. Only because when he first saw her, he kissed her, put his tongue down her throat where he could taste her stomach, and then he was like, "She was my lover." How you let somebody else pull her away from? Like, now,
Yeah.
if we didn't have that part, I'm like, okay, but this is your lover who's been locked up for 4 days,
Yeah.
and you let. I'd have shot
It's,
Quinn if I was
yeah.
him. What do you mean?
Because he should have said something like, "What the hell are you doing? Right? Why are
Yes,
you running her out?" Because they were behind, like he had pulled down the bench or the table for
yes,
cover, and
yes.
then Quinn was like, "Let's run through this gunfire," and then pulled Wade out, and then Wade was like, "What the oh shit? I got shot."
I
Because we
hate
don't see
that.
when she gets shot, but
Mm-mm.
I'm a firm believer that if she had stayed her ass behind that table, that double would still be alive.
Which
And so
she's
Quinn,
so important. Like,
yep,
she's so important to this world.
she she's a martyr now.
I
So
hate
they
this. I hate this.
she's a martyr. So they rush out. I think I had like Rembrandt was ducking, and like I said, he was rolling and shit. They have Arturo do this like weird action moment where he rolls under the truck
For no reason.
for no reason.
What?
And so they have, and like I said, the brother shooting like John Woo. They get in. I like. Um, so they get into the trucks. I guess maybe some people are dead. The only people I saw get shot were Russians. And then which is which is like something I was like. I don't know if you've ever seen Commando.
Yeah.
But Commando is like I call it one of the greatest Schwarzenegger movies because it's horrible.
Yeah.
There's this whole part where he just goes into like this compound and he's just like killing people left and right and only gets cut on his arm. This type of shit. And so that's how this scene reads to me.
Yeah.
And so they get away. They have one moment where I think it's the brother he blows up that the checkpoint where the Russian guy was at the soldier from earlier and just blows that shit up and then they just drive away. And so Rembrandt and Quinn are like in one of the trucks and Wade and the double Commander Wade, like you see her slumped over and then Quinn pulls up his hand and has blood on it. And then he's like, stop the car. And so then they pull over And Quinn brings Wade out, and the guy, like you said, the white guy with the you said the racially ambiguous white guy,
I
like
have no
Italian
idea
guy.
what he is.
Yeah, I think he was. They had established that the brother had been a pilot, and he was a surgeon. So he runs
Okay.
over, tells Quinn to get out the way, and then he's doing whatever he can to bring Wade back. But at this point, we don't know that this is the commander. So you think it's the actual Wade. So then in the distance, you see R Wade or Prime Wade walk up, and Quinn like, oh okay, she said, "Fuck this dead girl," and
Which
then
Scott Summers?
exactly.
Ugh.
He said, "Gee, Gray, you get away."
Oh my god! I have a
I need my
clone.
Madeline Pryor.
Oh god, I
And
hate them.
so he or maybe it's the other way around. Or actually, you could add Emma Frost. It's Emma Frost
I
and
mean,
Jean,
why not? Because
right?
I hate Quinn.
So I really hope season 2 was good of X-Men 97. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I was like,
Of
I
X-
thought you meant this show. Say,
oh
haven't
no
you
no no
seen
of
it?
X-Men no of X-Men 97. Yeah, I just had a complete
It better be hell. It better
yeah,
be.
nah. That dude was wilding. But
Mm.
anyways, the so he goes to and he tells her like, don't look, because I think that is kind of a weird thing to see yourself die. So I
Yeah.
can get that. And so then he says, "Trust me, I'm going to get you home." So Ray, do
I
not watch your
hate
hair.
Quinn.
Do
I'm
not.
sick of him.
Yeah, you can't be making promises like that, Quinn.
Quinn is a
Especially
villain.
if you decide to let her go off on a mission by herself where she could have died going into right. So, anyways, but I'm a firm believer that he got the double of this world killed because she got
Yes.
shot. She got shot between the time that he pulled her from the cover to, and they never revisit that. I tell you right now, they don't.
What
So,
for?
right.
He
So
sucks.
the any thoughts about this
I
whole
hate Quinn. I hate Quinn because he's a Rembrandt was right. You fucked up my car
Mhm.
because you don't know how to calculate your little science shit. You made him miss his job. Every sucky thing that happens to these people is because of him. Quinn
Yeah,
is the real antagonist. I don't care what nobody say, and not evil Quinn. This Quinn. This
yeah,
is the bad person. Yeah, he sucks, man. Um, I don't think they, and I know again, it's the 90s. You're probably trying to get through this really quickly. The nature of TV isn't how it is now, but
yeah.
like they didn't. Well, I don't want to say they didn't mourn that girl because we had some shit, but I feel like the black guy wasn't angry enough at Quinn.
Yes.
You got my girl killed.
Yeah.
Oh. Or
At
the
the
fact
end,
that she was dead, no matter who got her, she is dead. Like they was like, yeah,
yeah.
man, you know,
War, right?
right. What the fuck? That just oh.
Yeah. So the next scene, I put it the end with a question mark. The thing that I did appreciate was they do give, I don't know, I mean, maybe they try to give this a sense of danger, like,
Mm-hmm.
something could happen, right?
Yeah.
With kind of the fake out, because this is kind of a worse, I hate to say this, it's a better fake out because she dies, but then Quinn, jumping through the portal, not
Mm-hmm.
not showing up immediately.
Yeah.
So this is how dangerous, this life can be if we are going to continue to do it because we ain't got no choice. So that's the only thing I really kind of appreciate about like that scene or whatever. But the next scene is of them back at the base, or the resistance base. Rembrandt is singing over. So I guess people did die because they had their bodies. I'm sorry, they had their bodies covered up because that was my question. I was like, did any of them die? So like we do have the scene, and he's singing "Amazing Grace," which his voice is beautiful. Voice is beautiful. But I know it's a bit much. Like, what were you about to say specifically?
This is so weird, but I do not judge me. I thought he was going to sing Wade in the Water. When he first started singing, Also, they have a ton of American flags. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is going on? Clean flags? I don't know, man.
Like that would have gone towards like better fighting for like training
I
for.
just and if we had a rocket launcher, why did we just shoot it at the end when like before like what I don't know. It was a bit I to be honest, I fast forwarded that whole singing part. Initially, I was like, okay, they're gonna do like maybe a little verse. He
Yeah.
kept singing. I was like, no, I'm not listening to this. Robert would tell me if I missed something. I was not
No,
gonna listen to
no,
all that. No,
no. He was just singing over the bodies. Like in my mind, they have like I really wish there was a deleted scene of them talking about the flag budget and saying
bruh.
if
Like,
the flag was hanging up.
right? I was like, what is the point? Why you are the resistance? Why is this?
Yeah.
Why?
Like
But
you need like one flag that we look at and like that's inspiration, not like for every.
this
But
was a
that's
lot,
where the budget for the special effects when they went to the flags.
honestly.
So they so he's singing the what does he say? It's either like I think the black guy says to them, and that's what makes it worse. Like you said, his lack of like of angry reaction to Quinn. He says, or maybe it's the white guy, but he says this gave the revolution a shot in the arm, and it's become like that we needed. And I think they said that like people are fighting back in different places, and I'm like,
How do you know? Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, I do believe that maybe they got reports about like certain, a certain the
All right. Like that uprising in Detroit where Rembrandt
yeah,
died.
what
I
I
can
felt,
accept that. I can accept that, but
yeah. But it's the thing of this thing of, and once again, this is another one of those constant. This things is going to become regular. Their impact is always influential on the world that they go to. Like I think they definitely do have episodes where it's just like a regular run of the mill episode. Like, they go in and have their like isolated adventure, but
yeah.
they do have those episodes where they go and they're like, we've instituted the greatest change that's ever happened on this world. And it's just like, it's just, and this is the
Bruh.
start. This is the start of that.
God.
So they yeah, so they leave. They leave the resistance. I would have asked for an escort back to the park. Like I'm just being real. Like yeah, because as soon as they come out of the hideout, once again somebody's middle-aged dad walks up to them in a trench coat and says it's past curfew, and then like Wade punches him in the dick or like kicks him
Yeah.
and
Like,
says, "I'm tired of this. Let's go." And it's just like you just y'all should be traumatized. You saw like bodies falling,
yeah.
explosions. Rembrandt was like interrogated, thought he was gonna lose his life. And then so I will say you get the scene. I don't know if you noticed this in the credits, but the kind of iconic scene where it's like the four of them running at
Mm-hmm.
nighttime. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty cool. I like that shot.
Yeah.
But when I see the people chasing them, I'm like, okay, I would have just walked fast.
No, truly. Good.
It's just like once again, I think they just got a bunch of extras, put like some warm jackets on them, and said, "We need you to act tough." And
Mm-hmm.
so you get the moment again of the timer, and that's the other thing I forgot to say. The professor, and that's important. The professor and Quinn have the timer had gone. It wasn't broken. It just I don't know. It just wasn't like juiced up or something, and that was
Mm-hmm.
towards the beginning. And at one point, the professor and Quinn decide to like work on it. And like I think the professor says, I want to look under that hood. And so they are able to use the equipment at the resistance
Mm-hmm.
to get it working, but it's still kind of acting up. So
Mm-hmm.
at the last minute, they jump into the portal at the park, and then they get back to what we think is their world. So third fake out. So we've had two fake outs. So they get back to this world, which we think is Earth Prime. This is another thing that I talked about this the first episode, where everything is so similar to the
Mm-hmm.
point where like you're not noticing any differences. Like like the mom on this world organized everything, so like the door is still creaking,
Mm-hmm.
the gate is still creaking, The mom still looks the same. She doesn't say like, "Oh, Quinn, shouldn't you have like a bruise or something?" Or well, like
Mm-hmm.
everything is still the same.
Yeah.
So they sit down and they're having dinner, even to the point where Quinn says, his mom says, I'll fix your favorite meal," and it's
Mm-hmm.
the same damn meal. So he has no questions until so they're talking. And the thing I do like about the scene is them just kind of talking about what they do next, kind of like, Wade even says like, you have a beautiful voice. You ever thought about doing gospel? And,
Mm-hmm.
Rembrandt says like, I haven't sung like that in years. And it seems like it's a like kind of natural conversation. Then they move on to Quinn talking about like what he's going to do with the device. The professor is talking about Oppenheimer with the nuclear bomb and like, you need to put
Mm-hmm.
it up. And, Quinn is like, we went on this adventure. It just seems like a natural conversation. It doesn't seem like
Absolutely.
over the top. It's just working. And so then that's when his dad comes home. So
This show.
I got thoughts about this. And so like basically the last thing, just to wrap this part before going into that, his dad says like, "You look like you've seen a ghost." And then Quinn drops his glass and then it cuts to the credits. So what was your thoughts?
This was really good because I didn't expect this. Because I haven't seen this show, I thought one of two things would happen. Either they would have made it back to the world, and then now going forward, they're going to explore other worlds and try to like get medicine and whatever and technology, or this is not their world, and now the entire show is just trying to get back home.
Yeah.
I have a few issues with this, but I don't think it's specifically this scene. I think it's just the show, this aspect of the show.
Mm-hmm.
One, where the fuck is this world's Quinn? Because y'all just accepted this motherfucker too. Like, does he not exist? Because we established that there's a Quinn for each world that we go. So where's the other thing, which kind of ties directly into that question, is going back to the first episode of the pilot, the alternate evil Quinn, the prime Quinn, and the timer. The timer sucked him back into the world. Are we just not doing that anymore? Now is it just we have to jump through? Because my thing is, what's the point of the timer if you still have to like jump? You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess if you initially, I don't know if I'm just being too like well actually about it, but
Yeah.
there's something there that doesn't feel that's not connected for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that very first jump after 14 or 15 minutes when he was pulled off the
Just go
porch
back.
back.
Yeah.
That's the and so you can maybe explain it like, oh, they broke the thing or whatever, but like that doesn't, I don't know, maybe should I just not focus too much on
I
that?
mean, no, because I mean it's two different ways. Like once again, it's done for dramatic effect. Like
Mm-hmm.
the first time when he jumped through, when he was on what we said, red means go, green means stop,
Yeah.
or Elvis world. It's this thing of like he sucked back because he's looking at his mom, so
Mm-hmm.
he's like he has this big moment of realization that this is definitely not my home. So
Yeah.
rather than having him turn around and jump into it because it's on the timer,
Mm-hmm.
he's pulled back. And
Okay.
then you had the other Quinn, the evil Quinn, pulled back into the thing. So it's like this whole thing of like, but then going forward, I mean, then maybe they do it in other episodes, but going forward, they run into that shit. Like
Yeah.
so, and it's this thing of like, or jump into it. So I don't know if they say like the closer you are to this thing, it's a suction type of effect.
Yeah.
Like maybe like it's something like as you get closer, it'll pull you in. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the only thing I could think of. But I do think that they do that much more in the first episode, first couple of episodes for dramatic effect.
Okay. And I
So
can
I
accept
don't think you're nitpicking or like the technology, that type of thing.
that.
Um,
Would
no,
have
but like
been
and you so you're okay with like the reveal of his dad.
See, only because I figured the fact that they established that he's dead, that he was
Okay.
going to show up again. I
Yeah.
think for me here, it just wasn't done well.
Mm,
I didn't like it at all. I think, I mean, I think well enough for the time period. It just, I think I would have to see the third because having not seen any of this in my mind, these first two episodes are the pilot. I
mm-hmm,
understand that we're not going to be back home probably for a long time.
mm-hmm,
My only the only thing that makes this be okay is if the next episode we're still in this world. Like, I feel like we got the dad too early. I'll say that. I think we
Yeah.
got him too early. I think you've established that the dad is dead. You've established that he has a sister on another Earth. Like
Mm-hmm.
those two, if we had have waited and got the dad, and then maybe another alternate universe where he has a sister and whatever else, I think that would have been better. This at the end of the second episode of the pilot, I think was just too soon. Where
Mm-hmm.
this is like a mid-season finale type reveal or an end
Yeah.
of the season reveal. This
So you
because
wish
what
that
does this mean? Hmm? Go ahead.
right. So maybe they should have done like another type of like cliffhanger.
Well, no. Even if you like, you can still show me that no, this actually isn't the world that you thought it
Yeah.
is by simply having a sister, because we don't know her. She was just on a picture.
Yeah.
You could have
Yeah.
brought in a sister and be like, "Who the fuck is this? Like, what do you mean? It's Katie?"
Mm-hmm.
But I think the dad, because we led with him being dead,
Mm-hmm.
it was just too soon for me. I didn't. And
Yeah.
he's you seen
Yeah.
it? Yeah, okay, Lurch, get out of here. I didn't like him. I didn't
Yeah,
like.
I think I actually had never thought about the sister. I mean, them introducing the sister, so that would have been actually would have
Mm-hmm,
been good. And
mm-hmm.
you still could have had the same reaction of
Yeah,
him. And so the other thing though about that scene was had Quinn shared with everybody at the table outside of Wade
okay.
that his dad was dead.
I forgot. No, that you're absolutely right. That is a thought I had because I was like,
Yeah,
what the hell? But see, well, yeah, but not Rembrandt. Because remember when they were in
yeah.
the icy world, I think I want to say, I'm going to assume he told him, but I know he didn't tell Rembrandt. That man,
No, he didn't have no. I mean, he didn't have a reason to. I mean, I
yeah,
think even the same thing with the professor. Now, unless like he had told the professor during one of his classes, "Well, my dad's dead,"
yeah,
that would not have come up.
yeah,
So the only people at that table, well, the only person of the group who would have known would have been
hmm,
Wade.
yeah,
So when Rembrandt and the professor are sitting there like looking like they should have been like, oh hey dad,
yeah, right.
this is Earth, right? And so because Rembrandt looks very disheartened, and I'm like, but Rembrandt doesn't know, like they
You don't know
haven't had
any of
the
these people.
conversation.
You don't know
You're right.
none of these people.
Yeah, he was just driving through that neighborhood for the first time in his life. That's the end of episode 2. The one thing I forgot to mention last week was our favorite moments and our not so favorite moments, least favorite moments, and then the rating. So let's start with that. What's your least favorite moment from the episode?
God, there's so many. Least favorite moment. Oh my God. Um, if I'm being honest, it's a tie between Rembrandt getting all these guns pulled on him
Mm-hmm.
and that black man just putting his tongue down that girl's throat.
Yeah.
Which, see, another issue I had was the transition from him kissing that girl, commercial break, and then it's like Quinn and the professor are like in prison. That transition was very poor. It was poorly done.
Yeah.
What the fuck is
Yeah.
so? But maybe Rembrandt and the guns, because
Okay.
yeah, that got to be my least favorite. That got to
Yeah.
be my least favorite.
So we can I guess have two different ones because that was definitely at the top of my list. Quinn getting that woman killed. And that never coming up in the series again.
He's a murderer.
Yeah, because he was so impulsive. He was like, "Wait, we gotta go," that type of thing.
It's like, where were you going? There were guns. It was gunshots everywhere. There was no
Yeah,
designated safe space. Like,
right.
be next to me when you die. Like,
He
what?
should have been rolling on the ground like the professor was.
Clearly, that's the.
Yeah, I forgot there was one part during that shootout where the professor was hiding behind a column, and he was just like this. Um, so what's your favorite moment?
Do I have one? Hell, no. So favorite, damn, that's a little more difficult. Um, shit. I mean, maybe that no, not the rocket launcher. Well, honestly, I'll say the end right before the reveal
Okay.
when they were sitting out, and it was it because it felt like honestly, this felt like a movie. This could have been the end of
Yeah.
a like this.
Yeah.
These first two episodes could have just been one movie, and I would have
Hmm.
paid to see this in theaters. Um, and I say the end because this part felt like a show. This didn't feel
Hmm.
like everybody's in their own different genre of TV.
Yeah.
The circular moving camera was done well. The conversation was good. The
Hmm.
professor discussing, like you said, Oppenheimer and the atomic bomb and all this other, like it just felt though I just met these characters, that part of the scene to me felt like this is who they are.
Yeah.
This is the core.
Yeah.
They could either end things here or they can go on a bunch of adventures here. But like when you think about Fantastic Four, because I kind of been comparing them to that,
Hmm.
this is the Fantastic Four sitting at the dinner table after a
Yeah.
mission. So I truly enjoyed that right before the dad showed up is my favorite part.
Yeah. I think the uh the explanation of how things had gotten to where they had
Mm,
on the
that's a good one.
communist world. Like,
Hmm.
I say the info dump, which info dump is not always a bad thing.
Right, right, right.
I love the way that they were breaking it down to the professor, and then he mentions the domino theory, and so
Hmm.
that kind of alternate world multiverse like that satisfied the alternate world multiverse fan, in
Hmm.
me, and
Hmm.
parallel Earths
I
and
see
all
that.
that. Um, so yeah, the so I'm trying to think. So um, out of how many PT&T phone booths are you going to rate?
What the hell?
Are you going to rate this this episode
Out of 10, right?
out of 10? Out of 10.
Um, because Queen got that woman killed and that black man didn't care. That's so petty, but I gotta mark it down for that.
Mhm.
I would give it. See, I don't know because then you also have. I'm trying to think about it in comparison to the first episode. The things that would mark it down for me
Mhm.
kind of gets kind of becomes null and void because we got a world that they spent time like we had a full storyline in this world. So I have
Yeah.
my critiques, but I think the show did an exceptional job for the time period of seeding things in, like the homeless guy who was yelling, like
Mhm.
the dad, like the boss from the first episode. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be generous and stand by it, but I'm going to give this episode like I'm gonna do a solid 8 phone booths only
Okay.
because of the first. I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna yeah. Final answer 8.
Okay. So
Ugh.
for this one, I'm probably going to go 7.
Okay.
Which is, yeah, I always say like anything lower than a 7 is where you should be concerned. But like
Uh huh.
the 7 is always that area where you can there's room for improvement, right?
Yeah.
But it's still like, hey, sit down and watch this. So
Mm-hmm.
um I'd stick at a 7. But the follow up to that is, since both of these are essentially like, let's say they should be one episode, and I think
Yeah.
in certain cases they are. Like if you go to IMDb, this
Mm-hmm.
is just one whole episode. But
As it should be.
If you go to Peacock,
Mm-hmm.
they got it as like episode 1, episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
But what are your thoughts? How would you what would you rate this out of 10 for like both episodes together?
Um. Honestly, I would probably I would probably push it closer to a 9 only because
Mhm.
as one whole project,
Mhm.
I think it is good. They do enough callbacks. You have the campy stuff. And I
Yeah.
think if they never went past this pilot, this is still a very good
Yeah.
movie, so to
Mhm.
speak. Um, it wouldn't get close to a 9 because this is just exceptional quality, better than anything. Because there's probably another episode in the future that would get a 9 or a 10 from me. But
Mhm.
this is closer to a 9. So I'd say a 8.8, 8.9 overall because I know there's something that is much better that has to come. That's
Yeah,
more concise and cohesive, and maybe isn't as traumatizing. But I would a solid 8.8. I would give it a solid 8.8.
gotcha. Yeah, for me, I'd probably go 8.5. You know,
Okay.
because I think like, and I what I'll start doing is kind of keeping a track of our ratings. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think this one is 8.5. I know I rated the first episode as an 8, and
Mm-hmm.
then this one as a 7. So I don't know if that averages out to 8.5. Math ain't mathing,
No.
but I will go for 8.5 for like both of them together. I
Mm-hmm.
think that like for me, like I'd say Robert watching this first episode, you know, way back when,
Mm-hmm.
this is what was like, okay, I'm gonna keep coming back. You
Yep.
know, it
Mm-hmm.
was it was good enough for that. And I think that nowadays there's so much heavy lifting that's done.
Yeah.
I mean, I think period, just you know, a premiere episode has to do a lot, you know,
Yes.
to ensure that you keep bringing people back. And I think that this does this even with its goofiness and you know whatever faults it may have. I think it was good enough to keep you very interested enough to be like, you know, let's go, you know, so let's keep coming back. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I
yeah.
and that's the other thing too why I think I rate it higher is because it is a pilot. And
Hmm.
you do have to not just be a good show, but you got to cram a lot in and make people be like,
Yep.
"Oh, I'm interested to see." And for that cliffhanger, like I said, if they never got another episode, I still think you can have your own headcanon where that man never walked through the door. That's it. So, but yeah, so I'm feeling confident about this. But going forward, I'm gonna be harder on the
Yeah.
show with my ratings because I know it's like 4 seasons. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Cool, man. Got
I
through the
don't know.
pilot.
Man, y'all, and what would y'all rate this? And even if
Yeah.
you ain't watched it, just listening to the commentary, rate it off of that. Rate it
Right
off
off
of
the
that
bat.
alone. I'll be interested to see what do y'all listeners and viewers think that the rating of this episode together, separately, whatever it should be. And I don't know, Robert, any closing thoughts or anything?
I'm glad we're taking a ride. You know, I'll say that.
Ooh.
You know, with once again knowing the where the show goes and
Mm-hmm.
the back history, you know, well, the history with what happened behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, this is still it can get messy at times, but it's
Yeah.
still one of those shows that I will go back like once a year to do a sit down, like a rewatch, because it's I said it before, it's one of my kind of comfort shows. You know, like the Star Trek shows, the 4400. You
Mm-hmm.
know, just in it, and I think I have a few of them. But yeah, this is one I love to revisit. So I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
we're taking the slide. You know, with all this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. So, and I'm fighting the urge to just start watching them all because I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
I have to make sure I only watch right before we record, like the weekend or a couple days before. So yeah, I'm
yeah,
enjoying it, and I'm again thanks for even suggesting this because I am having a
yeah,
good time with this silly ass campy
yeah.
sci-fi '90s show.
Hmm.
Shit. So I guess let these folks know they can follow you and support you and check out anything else you got going on.
Immediate place would be Robert K. Jeffrey on IG. Website is Robert K. JEFFREY.com, RobertKJeffrey.com. And those are probably the two best places. And also, I'd say go to 133art.com and
Mm-hmm.
look for a series called The Crossing, because The Crossing is the creation of myself, John Robert McGuire, and Sean Damian Hill, where it's our multiverse hop-in adventure. It's not campy. It is not anything like this. The parallel Earths are the only thing that's similar. It's a bit
Mm-hmm.
serious, but it's a we call it Mission Impossible. Actually, 24 Mission Impossible meets Sliders. So
There we go.
definitely 133art.com and check out The Crossing and all the other books on there. But that one, I think you all would love if you love Sliders. So how about
Absolutely.
you, Ray?
Well, spoiler, Quinn's dad pops up at the last episode. of the crossing. No. Oh man, no. Y'all know you find me TikTok and Twitter at Carefree Blur, Carefree Black Nerd at IG and YouTube. And check out the podcast, check out some of the videos and all the other stuff coming down the pipeline. All in all, make sure you stay tuned for this series right here because
Yeah.
I got a feeling we about to get ghetto. Because what is going
Oh, dude, you ain't seen nothing yet. That's what there was a reason I suggested this one to you.
Oh my god, bro!
It's fun, but it does get campy and goofy as heck at times. So
I just want to see some old POC, specifically black folks, but some POC. But whatever we get, I'm fine
yeah,
with because it's silly as
Mhm.
hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's it. So y'all make sure you use the hashtag STTMPod for stumbling through the multiverse with Robert K. Jeffrey and Ray Coleman talking about this wonderful show, Sliders, and meet us back here next week for the next installment of Stumbling Through the Multiverse. All right.